So today we're talking about Google Analytics 4, and this has already been written to death about. There's articles left, right and centre. If you're a business owner or a marketing manager, you might be thinking, I haven't got time to read all that. Is it really that important?
I'd say it is one of those things that is absolutely vital because it's not optional. It's coming, whether you do anything or not. And if you don't act soon, you're going to lose historic data.
Okay, so if you don't have time to read the in-depth articles, or like me, you've got the attention span of a gnat, let's try and sum it up really simply for people. Let's start by just confirming, what is Google Analytics 4?
So it's the replacement for Universal Analytics. Essentially, it's the next generation measurement tool that Google's going to be using for the next 10 years.
A next generation measurement tool. I feel that might be a soundbite from Google.
I might have read it directly from the website.
Okay, so anyone want to try that in English?
Well, so for those who aren't familiar with it, it's essentially a tool provided by Google that allows people, business owners, marketers to see who's using their website and how they're using it.
Okay, and that's free, and it's been running for years. Most, or if not a lot, of websites have
Hundreds of millions of websites use it.
So why are Google changing? Because we use Universal Analytics as the current version is called in the business here at Morph Sites, and we know a lot of our customers do, and it works pretty well. So why are Google changing it?
In a word, privacy. Things like GDPR, movements in certain American states mean that things like cookies are on their way out, and of course Google Analytics relies on cookies. So this is essentially future-proofing. It's a cookie-less platform, or has the potential to be.
Basically, it can be used with cookies or without.
Okay, so this enables, as you've said, Tom, it enables businesses to future-proof against the tide of where privacy and data tracking is going.
Yeah.
And Dan, you were talking about that earlier. It's not just cookies, is it? Privacy is being baked in to everything.
Yeah, it's a trend that's been growing for a long time. We've seen things like recently with Facebook, the iOS 14 update. Was it right? Yeah, iOS 14 update that actually asked users if they wanted to opt in to being more privacy focused or not.
Yeah.
And that actually, especially with Facebook, that turned off a lot of data if users opted out. And in fact, Facebook was unable to track users like it used to be able to. We can see that a lot of our clients have actually stopped spending as much as they were on Facebook, simply because that data is now missing, especially for iPhone users.
Wow, okay.
So yeah, this has really had a really big impact across the world. And if we look at Facebook's share price recently, it's fallen around 50-60% in the last 9 months, just because their advertising revenues are really getting hit.
So we could see a bit of self-preservation from Google in making sure they future-proof against this. They're calling it Google Analytics 4, which gives the impression that it's just a version, an upgrade. And we have that, don't we, where a new version of a piece of software comes along and says, would you like to try our new version? You just press a button and off you go. Is that the case here?
No, it's much more akin to, an iPhone user switching to an Android phone. You've got the same basic goal, but doing it in a different way. It's a much more dramatic change.
So quite a learning curve?
Yeah, it's a completely new product. So even it reports things in a different way, it tracks things in a completely different way. So it really is a next generation movement.
Okay, so it sounds like there's a lot to think about here. So let's talk about timescales first of all. So what are the timings that we're looking at for this? How long have we got to implement this?
The current version is essentially stopping from July next year. So it'll stop collecting data from July next year.
July 2023, okay. And when you say stopping, that means not just end of support for that platform, but it's actually going to stop recording data?
Yeah, data collection stops on that date.
So with that in mind, can we just, as business owners and marketing departments, think, well, we can kick that can down the road for a few more months, put it into quarter 4 of 2022 or quarter 1 of 2023? Is that a sensible thing to do?
It's tempting, but it would be unwise, because that would then mean there's no comparison data. What Google are recommending, and what we would recommend to our clients, is to run both in parallel and to have at least a year of them running in parallel. So that means you have to have the new analytics set up by July 2022 at the latest.
And in terms of getting data out of the current analytics for sort of legacy purposes, is there a way to do that?
You can export the data manually. But because of what you're exporting is actually fundamentally different to what the new version of Google Analytics will be tracking, it's like comparing apples and oranges. It's
Okay.
comparing two different things. So it's going to be really hard to be able to move forward tracking the same thing. Well, it's almost impossible, to be
So
honest.
that's another argument for getting this done sooner rather than later, so that you can start working out the meaningful data you want to track already.
Exactly. You've got a full year to compare that year-on-year data between the two platforms.
Okay, so this is a non-optional upgrade or change. There is a time constraint on it. What should companies be doing about it? How should they approach it?
Well, there's a number of things that businesses should be considering right now, really.
Okay.
You've got things like the actual time to set up the new accounts. What will you be tracking on the new version of GA4? You've got training. So because it's so different from the old version moving to the new version, you really have to train it, treat it as if it's a new product that you're training for. You've also got this limited time window, as we've discussed. You may need to look at all of your integrations. So if you've already got Google Analytics linked in with Facebook or Google Ads or LinkedIn, then you're going to need to integrate all those things in the new version of GA4 as well. One other thing is the actual existing reporting structures that you use. So for instance, if you have a monthly report that you've set up in the standard version of Google Analytics, and that automatically gets created and sent to your management team each month, that's going to stop working.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to consider what you're sending to them and how you're going to send it.
So I guess that's a really good point, isn't it? If you're a marketing team and you've got a load of reports set up that are going to your management, your business, your managing director, your CEO, whatever it is, they're suddenly going to stop at some point. That's going to be awkward, isn't it, if you haven't already got not just the new reports in place, but the recipients of those reports understanding them, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. As Dan alluded to, a lot of very, very relied on metrics are disappearing. Things like bounce rate and conversion rate, things that most of us, even lay people, understand are disappearing. So there's an awful lot of interpreting and training needed. The other thing to mention is there's a lot of, I think, default reports in GA3. A lot of the most useful reports are just there by default. Those, I think, are disappearing in GA4. So there's going to be manual creation of a lot of new reports.
So how are we helping our clients and businesses with that?
Because of the urgency of it. I mean, we were in the understanding that Google would be running Universal Analytics for a lot longer. So it came as a surprise a couple of months ago when they did announce this. Because generally they've had previous versions of Analytics when they've released a new version that they've run alongside for a few years.
Yeah.
But to do maximum 18 months from when they, originally announced GA4 to then saying all the data's turning off, we've really got to get moving now, especially if we want that year-on-year comparison. So what we've been doing is calling all of our clients, we're already in regular communication, of course, but going out of a way to make sure that they're aware of these new GA4 changes, and then just discussing with them what they want to track, what's important to their business in 2022 going forward, and then what's the best way of getting to that point. So not only are we looking at setting up the new version, but also providing training for our clients, assisting in any way we can to make that transition as smooth as possible.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, so it's all about communication, really. Obviously we're using email, we're using phone calls to communicate with our clients, helping them see that they need to have some measure of investment in this. It does require some time to actually set up the new tags, to set up the new accounts. It's about that communication. And we do offer GA4 training. We have a partnership with a local university in the West Country, and also we provide on-site training for using this new analytics.
This sounds it's clearly serious, but it sounds just like a massive, as a business owner, it seems like a massive time sink and distraction from day-to-day business. And to a degree, there's a lot here that businesses are going to have to do this. But are there any silver linings to this?
Well, I think it's a really, really good opportunity to draw a line in the sand and say, right, this is what we used to track, but in 2022, what are we going to track going forward? So what's of value to my business right now? So you need to be able to track what's going on your site now to then be able to evaluate going forward if you're making improvements or if you're going in the wrong way.
That's a really good insight, Dan, because you mentioned, Tom, there's a lot of metrics that perhaps many of us are familiar with now, which we would probably consider to be vanity metrics in a lot of ways. So if you're measuring the wrong thing, you're not going to get any value if you try and change that, are you? So it's a good opportunity to take stock, audit what you're measuring, and make changes that really have a positive effect on your business.
Yeah, I think Dan said something interesting recently, that if business owners are not checking their analytics daily, or marketers are not checking it daily, then it's not useful enough to them. So this is that chance to make sure it is actually working for you.
So thanks for your insights, guys. That's been really useful. Hopefully we've succinctly covered the key aspects of GA4. Thanks for watching. Hopefully it's been of use to you as well.